This is my full review of the new Enchanted by Nature expansion pack for The Sims 4. And in this video, we are going to go over literally everything coming in the pack. What's good, what's bad, and also whether or not I think it's worth buying. I was given early access to the pack through the EA Creator Network so I could make content on it, but I am not being paid. I literally just got to play the pack early, and I have played with this pack. Over the past couple of weeks, I have put in many hours with this expansion, and I feel ready to walk you through everything that comes with it. When we get super early access like this, they give us a second version of The Sims 4 with just the base game and Enchanted by Nature. And this version of the game has a couple of quirks. You're gonna see a watermark with my username floating around the screen. That's actually just on the game and it can't be removed. This version also has no gallery access, and it's technically not final software, though usually nothing really changes between now and release. And because I only had Enchanted by Nature, I can't really talk about cross-pack compatibility in this video because I haven't been able to test that yet. Last disclaimer, just for the sake of transparency, I do also have a creator code with EA, so when you use my code at checkout on the EA app, I will earn a 5% commission on the sale of any Sims pack. I just want you to know that I have no reason to lie to you, and I'm not making this video to like sell you a Sims game. The pack is expensive, and I just want you to have all the tools to know what you're buying and what you're spending your money on. So I'm gonna show you what comes in the pack, and as always, I'm gonna give you my honest opinions on it. Okay, all of that out of the way, let's actually get into it. As the name suggests, at its core, this pack is about nature and magic. I would say there are three key features here: fairies, living with the land, and becoming an apothecary. There's a ton of additional supporting content in there too, but those are the three big themes. And I'm actually gonna start with Create a Sim today because I think we all want to see fairies. Fairies are the most major new feature of the pack, and most of the stuff in CAS is for them. So you can make a fairy and create a sim just by adding a new sim or by switching the occult type with the button above their traits. The key difference in appearance between a fairy and a regular human is just that the fairies have wings, but those wings are fully customizable, and there's a few additional new CAS features you can add. If you've ever played with werewolves or even horses, the fairies work the exact same. There are 26 new wing styles to choose from, ranging in size and shape and style. Some of them kind of look like butterflies, some are more planty, some are teeny tiny, others are a bit more transparent. I was pretty impressed with the variety of wing types. I guess my only frame of reference with this kind of thing in The Sims 4 is the mermaid tails, which we only have 4 of, and they are not customizable at all. And the fairies are on another level. Like, you can't even compare the mermaids to this. I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I was kind of worried about fairies getting the mermaid treatment coming in an expansion pack, and that just isn't the case. The mermaid tails just had normal swatches, but with the fairy wings, you can pick all of the different color swatches individually, like with pets or wolves, or you could use the paint mode to fully customize it further. This paint mode has tons of different brushes and stamps. It's got a color wheel, so you have to choose from one of those 26 different wings, almost like your canvas, but then you can do whatever colors you want or even whatever painting you want on top of them. This could go as far as you completely painting a full wing yourself or just adding like a heart stamp on one side, and that's the beauty of it being custom. You can really do whatever you want. The wings are pretty cool too because they're almost a little bit holographic, so when you rotate the sim, you can kind of see how they're shiny, they reflect the light, and they kind of change color when you move. And aside from the wings, there are a couple of other little details you can add to your fairies in CAS. They have a human form and a fairy form just like all the other cults, and in that fairy form, they've got access to some extra stuff. The fairies have a bunch of different colorful skin tones to choose from. We had a handful before this pack, but now we have way more, like more shades of blue and green, there's pink and purple. You can't access these for humans though, but fairies can use them in both their human and fairy forms. There are also 18 new eye styles, ranging from kind of scary glowing eyes to just shinier versions of normal colors. Plus, there are 3 new pointy ears that you can choose from and 2 new styles of teeth. Something kind of unexpected is that there's a new skin effects category under accessories, and there's a glowing skin overlay. You don't even have to be a fairy to use this. Anyone can, even humans, but it makes their skin completely shiny all over. I made one sim that I kind of pretended was like a water fairy, and I had her blue and glowing. I also made a kind of cool space theme fairy called Eclipse, and they were purple and glowy. I was having a lot of fun with this, and it's just an accessory, so you can put it on only one outfit or all of them if you wanted to, but there aren't any new skin details, though we did get a couple of new face paint options and also a new eyeshadow. We also got a bunch of new tattoos. There's some normal ones like a little gnome and some flowers, but there's also these really beautiful glowing lines that you can put all over their bodies. So they've got a set for almost every body part, like arms and legs. They even have face tattoos. There's a lot of stuff in CAS with that new glowing effect. And lastly, as far as new CAS features go, there's a new head decorations category. This is different than hats, and we've got one base game bow, but the pack comes with a few more. There's a headband, but also 4 more like fairy style headpieces. There are 2 different styles of horns and also 2 different crowns. One's a little bit floral and one's a bit more leafy. So that covers all the flashy new CAS stuff, but the pack obviously also comes with like hairs and clothing and everything. It comes with 13 new hairs, and that's the exact same number as as the last couple of expansions, it can be kind of hard to evaluate the quality of casts because it is so subjective. So I think that's a helpful comparison to make. One of them is literally just leaves, which is maybe not something you'll use every day, but it is cool to have. I really like the hairs in this pack, and I see myself using them in the future a lot, even when I'm not playing as a fairy. I did find myself pretty annoyed by the tagging that they've done here. By default, it looks like there are only 5 shirts for feminine frame Sims, but all of the masculine frame stuff fits them perfectly. I really think they could have and should have tagged it all for everyone. I know sometimes there's issues with like triangles on their chest or clipping, but that's not even the case here. And it is easy to access just by turning off that feminine tag, but I don't feel like I should have to do that. It's an extra step for no reason, and a lot of people won't even think to look there. The tagging is weird across all ages, even like the toddler shoes. So I just think that maybe they should go back and fix that in an update. This also isn't a huge deal, but there's a weirdly small number of styled looks. I've noticed them really cutting down on styled looks lately in their packs, and I wish that they wouldn't. Maybe they think they have too many, but I really like styled looks to quickly fix outfits for random Sims. Like if my kid meets a friend and they're wearing some kind of wacky clothes, I like to put them in a styled look to fix it in just one click. But there are no styled looks for kids in this pack, and adults only got 3. And that's a missed opportunity with how much cool stuff there is in casts. But anyway, here is a look at some of the casts for feminine frame Sims. It's got a nice mix of some obviously fairy clothing, but also some more normal, casual looking stuff. There are also a few outfits that you unlock by playing the naturopath career, including this one. We got 4 new shoes, some sandals, some heels, boots, and also some hooves. We got this really beautiful floral armband and also some gloves and some socks. I am obsessed with these frilly socks. I wear socks like this a lot in real life, so I'm really excited to have them for my Sims, although I kind of wish that the white ones did not have anything on them. I don't know why they feel like they need to put patterns on everything they ever make. Like the other swatches are super cute patterned, can't we just have plain? This is kind of rare for this game, but masculine frame Sims have way more stuff this time. I think maybe just because they failed to tag some of these things for feminine frame Sims. Like this is a button-up shirt. Anyone can wear this, but there are 14 new tops, and I really like this stuff. I see myself using these things for a lot of Sims, even when I'm not playing with fairies. They actually did get an extra pair of boots, but otherwise have most of the same accessories and shoes. There are also some really cute pants in this pack. Everybody has access to these jeans with the pretty floral detail. They are really doing so much better with making jeans lately. I also love the bag on this pair of pants. I've been using these on almost every single Sim. We also have some kind of fun leafy skirts, some more pants like this, some shiny ones, and here's a couple other skirt options that we got. As far as the little ones go, they got a couple things too. They gave us 7 of the same adult hairs converted for children, which is so nice to have. Kids also have 3 new shirts and a couple of new dresses. Children don't have a fairy form, and you don't unlock it or like grow it until they're a teen. So it's kind of cute that they can play dress up with this little wings shirt. There's also a really cute pair of sandals for children. Toddlers got way less, but they did get 2 of the new hairs. They got this really adorable little hat. There are 3 new full body outfits for them, 1 with little wings. Unfortunately, the wings kind of clip in a bunch of the hairstyles. They also got those same sandals, but look, you have to remove the tag and then you can see them. They're also missing some swatch details. It's the same colors, but you can't see it here in the menu. And lastly, the infants did also get a couple of things. They don't have any new hairs, but they got the same hat. They also got those same sandals that everybody else has, and there are a couple of new full body outfits for them. And while we're here in cast, I want to talk about the new traits and aspirations. So there are 3 new traits total. Disruptive for Sims who want to mess with people. They have a few new funny interactions. They gain the mischief skill faster, and they're also slower to regain balance. Then there's mystical, which gives your Sim a strong affinity for both the natural and the supernatural. They'll also have some special interactions, and they gain the apothecary and gardening skills faster. And lastly, plant lover, which is a Sim who is obsessed with plants almost to an annoying degree. These Sims have some new interactions to talk to plants, but they're also weirdly affected emotionally by plants. Like my Sim kept being sad about harvesting plants, or like sad about not thinking about plants enough. There's a few just weird little moodlets, so it might be funny to you, but also maybe proceed with caution with this. Honestly, I found it almost a little bit inconvenient to play with this trait. There are 3 new aspirations too. This Fairy Stories one is basically a tutorial to teach you how to play as a fairy. It's really short. It only has 2 levels, and and they're super easy to accomplish. Once you complete it, you'll unlock 2 additional fairy aspirations that are almost like fairy paths. There's Harmonious and Discordant, and it kind of walks you through being good or evil, and you'll get different bonus traits at the end. There's also an Elixir Enthusiast aspiration, which basically walks you through the apothecary skill and new career. This one has 3 levels, having you build the skill, craft some elixirs, do some foraging. And then we have the Nature Nomad aspiration about the natural living skill. This one is also only 2 levels, and it starts really small, just having you like catch some fish and do some foraging. And then it immediately jumps you to needing level 9 for the second tab. And unfortunately, I just don't think any of these aspirations are very good. The base game aspirations are so much more fleshed out. They feel like life goals. These ones feel just sort of like little side quests. I'm not sure The Sims really knows what they're doing with aspirations right now. They're also different in scope and in scale. And with the past recent packs, I just really haven't liked the aspirations, but these ones have kind of reached a new low to me. They really don't even feel like aspirations. And the bonus traits aren't even good. Like the natural living one makes you have more fun when talking to that green guy, Spruce Almighty. Like, okay. I'm just cutting in real quick because I just went into CAS after I finished filming this video, and I noticed that Spruce Almighty actually uses they, them pronouns. So I sincerely apologize for any misgendering I might have done of them throughout the rest of this video. And you barely get any satisfaction points. I finished the entire aspiration, both paths of the fairy one, and I only had like 500 points. The base game aspirations get you like 2, 3, 4,000 satisfaction points from completing them. So you can actually buy rewards when you're done, but you basically can't get anything after finishing an entire aspiration with this pack. I think that reward issue is probably an oversight. To me, it almost feels bugged, but I think in reality, they probably just didn't even think about it. I just don't see why they didn't write a couple of extra levels to these, especially with how easy they are. And I want my satisfaction points. But I think we're finally done covering CAS, and once you make your fairy, you're probably gonna want to move into the new world of Inniscreen. This is actually a pretty big world compared to ones we've been getting recently. There are 14 lots spread between 3 neighborhoods, and finally, we don't have a ton of boring empty lots around here. There are 2 sort of empty lots, but they put giant ponds on them, so they don't really look empty, and I think it makes the world look so much more lived in. And you could even use this as a starter home to play the Nature Nomad aspiration. You could like sleep on the floor and eat some frogs. They also hired simmers to build for this pack, and I'm gonna link all of their channels down below so you can go check them out. And they probably all made videos about that process. And it's just cool to see the behind the scenes of how something like this came to life. So the first neighborhood is Everdew, and this is kind of like the fairy hub. There isn't just one secret lot for fairies like in Realm of Magic. We've got this entire neighborhood instead. They all like to hang out in this area, and I think it's better that way because it's not really tucked away like it is for spellcasters. There is an absolutely incredible lounge in this place. There's also a starter home floating in a tree. You can find some of the special new fairy plants around here, and there's also this Mossvale Fairy Hub in the center. It's a rabbit hole where your Sims can learn more about fairies. They can research the lore of the world. You can also research how to become a fairy or how to unbecome a fairy. And fairies can pick up a daily ration of fairy dust in this place. There's also this Moondrop Springs area, which is kind of similar to the Baleful Bog in Ravenwood, but you can bask in emotions. You can bottle emotion potions from the springs, and you can also ask it to change its current emotional state. You're gonna see Sims basking in the emotions a lot like this, where they're kind of just like floating around in the water. It does look kind of funny from far away. This also plays a role in becoming a fairy, which I'll get into a little bit more in a minute. Then we have Spruceberry Grove, which is kind of like the countryside, small town vibe. There's a park and a bar over here, which are both really nice places to visit with your Sims. And even outside of the lots, there's just a lot to do in the environment of this neighborhood. You can summon Spruce Almighty with this little statue. There are little playgrounds and apothecary tables out and about. There's a rabbit hole bookstore. And when I say rabbit hole, I mean it's not a place that you can go inside, but your Sim just goes in there on their own. And you can purchase books in here. It just sells all the normal books that you can just buy on the computer or on the bookshelf. But it's kind of cool for storytelling to have a bookstore in here. And you can donate used books if you've got any in your inventory. There's also a rabbit hole plant store, and same thing, it's kind of just like a stall that has a shell around it, but in this plant store you can buy like gardening supplies and house plants. They sell things like the Aura Blossom seed and tabletop plant pots and gardening books, different starter flowers and vegetable seeds. And one of the townies is an apothecary vendor. It's actually this guy, Todd. Usually Todd's over here operating this stall, and he'll sell things like apothecary ingredients and a couple of elixirs. And the final neighborhood is the coast of Edmore. This is kind of like a small downtown on the seaside. side, and these people are obsessed with gnomes. The hub is this gnome museum, and it's really well done on the inside, and like the town square sort of vibe that it gives off is so pretty. And then next door, they've got this giant gnome statue. This has some gameplay tied to it that I'll tell you about in a second. And this guy, Glenn Gnome, sells both food and gnomes at his food stall. Next door is a rabbit hole grocery store, so your sim can buy things like flour and apples in here. You can basically buy some ingredients that are useful for cooking in here. Down by the water, you can fish on these docks, and you can also go shopping in this little fish stand. They just sell some kind of easy to catch fish in here. You can also swim in this area by the beach. There's some lore about the shipwreck, and the whole neighborhood is just so cute and colorful. There's also some additional lore about like the fairies and the gnomes and the gnome wars. The people in this area kind of hate fairy magic, and you can actually get in trouble for doing it too much in this neighborhood. In Inniscreen, there are 5 different townie families, and some of them have special jobs around the world, like how Todd works at the apothecary vendor. But I want to tell you a little bit about them real quick. This is the Enchanted Lovers household, Todd and Elric. Todd is a human who works as an apothecary, and Elric is a fairy who's searching for a greater purpose and has even considered clipping his wings. They live in Spruceberry Grove together. Then we have the Ladipo family from the trailer, and these two don't really care about nature. They describe nature as just being a backdrop to them. The closest they get to anything like that is just watering their houseplants. But this kind of formed a rift in their family with their daughter Iris, who has now moved out. They so often tell stories like that that aren't actually true, but Iris is actually related to them on the family tree. It's just that they don't technically know Iris. They have no relationship with her. So there's always something. There's always some kind of oversight with this game. The description does say that they're growing apart, but I don't know if they're growing so far apart as to literally not even know the other person exists. Classic Sims 4, every single time. Anyway, next we have Glenn Gnome, our wacky, waving, non-inflatable, arm-flailing gnome man. He lives in a kind of cute gnome-themed house, and he's also the person who operates that gnome stand in town. Moving on into Everdew, we have the mystical besties. This is Iris, the missing daughter in question, and she lives with her roommate Nadia. They tell you a little bit more lore about these Sims in game, and basically Nadia was like, Bestie, you can't be sleeping outside, you can't be eating frogs, you're gonna come live in my spare room, because Iris has that nature nomad aspiration and stuff, and Nadia is a very fancy, kind of disruptive fairy. And lastly, in this castle, we have the Summer Dream household. Having put down roots many moons ago, the Summer Dreams are Everdew's opulent high fae family. Sounds like they're having an emotionally tumultuous marriage, they're struggling with parenting, and they have a child daughter, Mara, who is anxiously awaiting the day her wings will sprout. Something kind of interesting about this is that there's a new body paint category, and so Mara essentially has these really cute stickers on her arm. It's kind of like tattoos, but for children. There are also a couple of other special townies that are just out and about in the world. There's like a mystical fairy and a fairy council liaison, but those people are not available to you in the manage households menu for some reason. But we just showed off a few of the default lots, so let's talk a little bit more about build mode. This is what I was most excited about with this pack. I have been dreaming about building fairy cottages for a long time, so I had extremely high expectations for it, and I would say it mostly met them, though there are some places where I left feeling a bit disappointed. So usually with expansion packs, we'll get a new build feature and a base game update right before, and in this case there are actually 2. We're getting glass walls. So the base game gets a bunch that match the default glass roof textures, and then the pack has an extra one that has some kind of ornate metal details on it. It is kind of a weird feature that I'm not sure that many people will use all that often, but it's nice to have. I feel like it only works in very specific circumstances though, and it's gonna take some practice for me at least to figure out how and when and where I want to use this. And the other new thing is the ability to place plants on the roof, and these will even adjust to the angles of the roof line, which can make for a really cool build. But unfortunately, I just found this beyond frustrating because now the game is extremely picky about where you can place plants near the roof. Like I built this hobbit house, so I had roof pieces on the ground on the sides to make it round, and I was physically unable to scoot the plants closer to to it, even with the move objects cheat. Like, move objects is on in this clip. I was so mad about this that I almost wish they just hadn't changed it, because I would have rather just used the move objects cheat to raise stuff up and place it on the roof like I've been doing for years. It used to clip a little bit, but at least I could place stuff freely. Now I can't even put anything on 3/4 of the roof. Like, only certain angles work. It can't be that rounded. I just don't really need the angle thing, and parts of this feel worse because I have less control. Like, what do you mean I can't place it close to the roof on the ground with cheats? It makes no sense. But as far as actual pack content goes, we do have some really lovely new build items. So here's kind of an overview of some of that stuff. We've got a couple of new fences, one that's a little bit more plain, and then one that's covered in plants. It's got a matching fence gate that is just unbelievably beautiful. There are 2 new columns in this pack, one that's a little bit more whimsical, one that's a little bit more fancy and like carved. We have a mossy stone staircase. There's a new mossy stone foundation. These are the 2 new spandrels that they've added. Back here, you can see a new wood floor and also a cute new stone floor and grass floor. And these are all of the new wallpapers. So there's this kind of like mystical enchanted forest vibe wallpaper. This one is like a birch wooden texture wall. This is a masking moss stone stucco color. Then we have a mossy stone wall, which I'm obsessed with. This is kind of like a fancy shingle. It's called the sleek scale shingles, and of course we also have that glass wall. There's a new fairy tale frieze with like a fun mossy texture on the top, and we also got this woodland knot floor trim. There are 2 new roof textures. First, we have this like wavy shingle one in a few different colors, and then we also got a mossy roof texture. Has loads of different floral options, and they both came with matching roof trims. There are also a whole bunch of new doors. I really like the doors and windows from this pack. This one almost has an interior door sort of vibe, and there's different carvings in the wood. There's also 2 variations of this door. One has a wreath, one doesn't. These are kind of more like big front doors with some mossy accents in 2 different sizes. Then we have these bigger glass doors, and look at some of the swatches. There's like butterflies in them. And there's a slightly smaller version of this one as well with like really pretty stained glass in there. We also got 4 matching arches in this pack. It feels like there's 2 different build styles, and we've got 2 from each of them to match the doors and windows. And speaking of windows, this is that first style set. There's 5 different sizes, and here's a look at what all of those swatches look like. They're all gonna match each other and also match those front doors from earlier. And then the other style is a little bit more plain wood, but it's got that really lovely curve on the top. You're gonna see a lot of curves like that in this pack, and this one also comes in 5 different sizes. Finally, I feel like I so desperately need just more sizes of the windows that come in packs. I need to have enough variety to fill in an entire house, and 5 feels like a good number. Sometimes they'll give me just 2 of a window style, and it's hard to do an entire house when you only have 2 different window sizes. So I feel really good about this collection of them. When I first started playing, I ran to build mode to the outdoor wall decor section because I was desperate to see the new plants. And then there weren't any. I was convinced this pack would come with all kinds of new ivy and wall plants, but then there just weren't any tagged in that outdoor category. There are some, but they're only tagged in the indoor wall decor category. Look, I'm glad you can put them inside, but you could put any of the wall plants inside. Literally all of the other plants in this game are tagged in the outdoor wall category too. This is a huge oversight from them. I think they need to go back and update that urgently. There are so many tagging issues in this pack. So many players are going to be confused at first, like I was. When you're looking for the wisteria, of course you're going to check where all of the other wisteria is. And the other major disappointment was the landscaping. Oh my god. I had the highest hopes for this. I have been having dreams of all of the beautiful plants we would get. And again, I clicked the landscaping category and there are none. Turns out there are 2 new plants, but they're only in the roof decor category. My bad, right? I mean, I should have assumed that the bushes would be with the chimneys. So yet again, really weird tagging issues. I know it might sound like I'm being dramatic about this, but I really do feel like it's a big deal. The entire purpose of having these tags is so players can find this stuff, and I just hate that the average simmer is probably not gonna know to look in these places, and they might not even realize they have access to these items. I really really hope they update it quickly because we had a similar issue with Love Struck and they did go back and fix that. And there is also some nice debug landscaping. This is just an example of a few of those things. And we've got some really nice varieties of bushes. There's a few different types of trees. So we do have enough stuff to make something really cool, just only with cheats. I hate how they do this every single time. I just wish they would give us this stuff for real in regular build mode. I know there are logistical reasons why they don't. I just don't think that that justifies it. Like, this was the perfect pack to give us more plants. Like, I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation for the nature pack. And we didn't even get any landscaping. We got roof decor. A couple of these things are in the debug from other packs, like this one is. But imagine if they just gave us these 2 trees in regular build mode. Even just a couple of extra trees. How many times have I asked for a plain low-lying bush like this? You made one. This is a recolor of the base game one with flowers. Why don't I have this in regular build mode? Anyway, most of the furniture is pretty mossy and whimsical. I keep using that whimsical word, but it really is the best way to describe this stuff. There is a new kitchen set. Unfortunately, you can see the seams between all of the counters. This doesn't normally happen with other kitchen sets, so I'm kind of disappointed in that. I just don't like knowing that it's all individual pieces, and I think it lines up really weird. And also the swatches between the upper and lower cabinets are not exactly the same. They are for every swatch but this one. So they're mostly the same, but this one is off, and that makes me really sad. Also, this backsplash is actually just like a wall decor item. We've gotten a couple of these now, but it has this beautiful butterfly on it and it comes in a bunch of different swatches. That is a real highlight of this pack to me. I'm gonna use this a lot. We also got some beautiful new floral curtains. I mean, these are just amazing. I really, really like the colors and the swatches on them. There's a new double bed, a bassinet, a crib, and a toddler bed, all in a matching set. I don't wanna sound too greedy, but I really wish we had gotten a single bed to go along with these. Now that we have all of them, I want to have a full set because these are absolutely beautiful. Like, look at how cute the swatches are on this. There's like little acorns in the baby's bed. Just this blanket on the edge of the crib. This is one of my favorite cribs we've ever seen in this game. And if you're gonna give me all 4, can't I just have 5? Can you give me one more? You expect me to use like a base game bed next to all of this? This is what you want? There are also 2 new fireplaces. One that's kind of wooden and matches the cabinets, and one that's a little bit more mossy. And oh my gosh, look at these mirrors. There's one for the wall with all of these leaves on it, and then also one that's on the ground with mushrooms. I don't know when I'm gonna use this thing. It's so big and like so funky, but it is also really cool. A lot of the tables and chairs have this kind of like petal or almost like leaf texture to them. They come in some nice wooden swatches. Oh, I nearly lost my mind over this bar and the matching bar back. I've never seen anything quite like that, how the galaxy moves in the background. And the bar is like curved and it's just, this is really, really special. They use this inside of the default lounge in the fairy neighborhood. Oh, and look at this. There's like a wedding arch and a matching swing set. Oh, and this mailbox was the first thing I ever saw when I went into build mode because I was on an empty lot and they always have a mailbox there by default. I couldn't believe my eyes. This is like the best mailbox I've ever seen. We also got 3 new rugs. There's like a leafy one, a mossy one, and then this one with some really beautiful patterns. This is gonna become a staple for me. I'll admit that I think I've been having trouble finding places to put this mossy rug. I've tried, but it's just kind of a weird texture to me. The leaf one has just a million different colors and variants and shapes. I think this could be kind of cute in some kids' rooms. Oh, you are gonna love all of these bookcases. So there's like a standard tall, skinny one. This is a clutter item that your Sims can read out of. And then most importantly, we have these. There's 2 giant tree bookshelves. You can also size them down and they'll fit in short wall height. And some of the swatches have kind of like an enchanted forest vibe to them. There are a whole bunch of additional surfaces and shelves coming in the pack. Like these mushrooms are shelves. You can slot stuff on top of them. Here's an example of some of the new tabletop decor and clutter that we're getting in the pack. There's like this little freezer bunny with wings that could be kind of cute for some kids' rooms. I'm gonna talk about the live house plants later, but these are the other plants that come in the pack. I guess this is just 2 potted versions of the roof decor that they added. added. And then we also have this like little mushroom fairy house thing and 2 little teeny tiny plants. That one has a smiley face. The kids got a dollhouse, an acorn toy box, and a couple of teeny tiny new toys like this little dragon. There is also a full bathroom set with these like rocky tubs and showers. This one has crystals in it. There's a sink that matches the kitchen stuff perfectly. It like fits in and slots to the counters. And there's also a little stump toilet. This is the call of nature. It works off the grid, and I wish I had this during my off the grid Let's Play. Do you know how long my Sims peed in a bush because I was waiting until I could craft a toilet with a woodworking skill? Now I have this. I could have used this. And that's not everything in build mode, but it is just about most of it. At the end of this video, I'll play some sped up footage of me going through it all. But I don't want to take too long on this part because you're all waiting for the gameplay. I kind of tried to organize this video in order of how you might play. So we started in cast, looked at the world, then build, and now we're finally getting into the good stuff. I think we should probably start with fairies because I just know this is forever gonna be the fairy pack, even though fairies aren't the only thing coming in this pack. So I showed you that you can make a fairy and create a sim, but you can also have a pre-existing sim become a fairy in game. To do this, you've got to get your hands on a fairy seedling. You can ask a fairy for one, you can sometimes find it or earn it in a quest, and you can also just buy it on the computer. This isn't really a normal seed because it doesn't grow a plant, but it does summon Mother Nature. If you ask her to become a fairy, she'll give you a potion, and then you have to go swim in Moondrop Springs to complete your fairy transformation. You can also relinquish your fairy abilities that same way, just like doing it backwards, and Mother Nature will help you remove your fairy essence instead. If you've played with or seen any of the other occult packs like werewolves or vampires, then you probably already have a good idea of how the gameplay for fairies works. It's super similar, and I don't mean that in a bad way. As you do fairy stuff, you'll earn fairy experience that helps you level up, and you'll earn these ability points that you can use to unlock more fairy powers on the skill tree. There are a lot of abilities on here in a few different categories. This customization category on the right is more like logistical stuff, and you pick just one from each side in each tier. So you could choose warm or wicked force gain, and this just gains you emotional force from social interactions, but you have to pick if you want it to be from good or bad ones. You can also choose to gain emotional force faster from doing the interaction, or if you want to just gain it when you're asleep. And then the nature category starts with using fairy abilities to nurture and enchant plants. As you level up, you can duplicate plants in your inventory, manifest new rare seeds, and actually often get really, really nice ones. You can make plants bloom, and ultimately you can unlock the ability to transform another sim into a fairy. There's an emotion category, and you can do things like sway another sim's emotions. You can influence their relationships to have more or less friendship or romance with another sim, and even ultimately influence their sentiments with other sims. This was actually really fun to play with. The relationship stuff is pretty slight, so it doesn't make a huge impact, but if you do it enough, it can. And then also the manipulation category has a bunch of other awful interactions. You can cure or apply ailments to other sims. You can shift people's luck to be either good or bad. You can manipulate objects, so like make them broken, make them clean, make them dirty. And ultimately you can enchant gnomes or age up other sims. I was hoping that I could use this as a way to kill people, but it won't let you age up elders. It says that this sim isn't able to be aged up, so that was kind of a huge disappointment. I keep mentioning all this emotion stuff and emotional force, but I haven't really explained it yet. That's basically like your power level as a fairy. Fairies don't have a hunger or a bladder need, they have emotional force instead. You can fill it by recharging emotional force on a fairy house. You can absorb emotions from other sims, which is kind of like you being an emotional vampire. You're not sucking their blood, but you're sucking their emotions, and they don't always like that. And you can also just drink bottled emotions. You need enough emotional force to do your fairy powers, and if it's not high enough, you can't do them. For example, like transforming a sim into a fairy would take a lot of emotional force, so you need the bar to be full first, and then you'll completely drain it with just that one interaction. You do need to be a little bit careful about this, because if you run out of emotional force, you die. They do give you plenty of warning. It'll tell you once the bar turns yellow that your sim is emotionally starving. I'm honestly not even sure that you could achieve this by accident because I had to work for it. It's really very similar to the starving death for humans, which takes a long time. When I killed a sim this way, I used up as much emotional force as I could, and then I just locked them in a bathroom for like a full day until they starved. Oh no! Lachlan is dying from emotional starvation! It's happening! Oh! Oh. And that's the main new death in this pack. That's like the big fairy death. But there is sort of another way for fairies to die. It's kind of the opposite because they can become emotionally overloaded. And this happens when you absorb too many strong emotions from other Sims too quickly. It's the same animation as the base game emotional deaths, like the hysterical, mortified, and enraged ones. And don't worry, this one you also have to work for, and it gives you plenty of warning before it happens. And there's one other way to die in this pack, and I would know because it happened to me by accident. But it's not really a new death. There's just this new lightning root plant, and you have to be real careful when harvesting it because it might electrocute your Sim. And just make sure you don't get electrocuted twice in a row, okay? Speaking from experience. And especially make sure you don't do it with your Sim that you're trying to use to max the entire apothecary career for the first time, because it's really gonna throw off all your plans. I think that you have to be focused when you harvest it, but honestly, I've been trying to avoid doing it because I'm scared of it now. Anyway, when fairies are young, they are very similar to all the other occults. They don't get powers until they're teenagers, but there is a special high fae lineage trait for Sims that have 2 fairy parents. It's kind of like Realm of Magic in that way, where if you come from a line of fairies, they'll gain fairy experience quicker because of that trait. Babies and infants are a teeny bit different than normal human ones. Their hunger and bladder needs actually deplete slower than a normal baby, and you can bottle feed them emotion potions if you have one in your inventory. Toddler and child fairies also have their hunger and bladder needs deplete slower, and they'll gain thinking and imagination skills more quickly. And then obviously teens are just like full-fledged normal fairies. In your fairy form, you can choose to fly around, and they'll basically just like float or hover instead of walking, but you can also instantly fly, which teleports them around, and you can super easily switch between human and fairy forms. There's not really any downside to staying in one or the other. It's kind of just whatever your personal preference is. Normally, fairies are regular full-sized human adult Sims, but they will get teeny tiny for a few things. You can basically fill all of your fairy's needs in this fairy house object. They can throw parties, they can regain emotional force, which is kind of like eating. They can bathe in there, they can sleep in the fairy house, and they'll get really teeny tiny before flying in. They can also bathe in plants. They call it cleansing in nature, and they'll like float around the plant and regain hygiene. And they can do some special interactions with a few objects. They can shrink down and play in the sink and splash in the water. They can sleep in the dollhouses and on top of pianos. In the dollhouse, they kind of just like lay on the floor. They don't sleep in the bed or anything, but it is still cute. And they can also just shrink and play in most things, like a mailbox even, but they go inside of it so you can't see. Fairies also have a new woohoo. The animations for everything fairies can do are just incredible. They are all so beautiful and so well done, but this one especially is really cool. They shrink down, they hold hands, they fly around a bit, and then they kind of like disappear in a puff of magic. It's kind of similar to how vampires and ghosts can woohoo just anywhere, but this one looks better. Also, fairies are even affected by lunar cycles. So depending on the current lunar phase, they'll have different effects. There's a long list and you can look through it in game in the lessons page. But just as an example, during a full moon, your emotional force will deplete more slowly. And even if you're not a fairy, you can still take advantage of some fairy magic by using fairy dust. There are a few ways to get it. Sometimes fairies will drop it after they bathe or woohoo, so you can sometimes find it just around Everdew. You can ask fairies to give you some, and they'll almost always give you one when you ask. And you can also shake fairy houses and see if you can find any built up in there. You can enchant plants with fairy dust, and this is the exact same thing that fairies can do with their powers. It just makes it so they don't need to be watered or weeded or anything for a little bit. You can use it to enchant some of the new nature press things. You can enchant gnomes, which we'll talk about later on. Honestly, I think this part sounds a little bit cooler than it is, but it is nice to have the option to use that stuff if you want to. I just kind of feel like if I'm gonna want to use fairy magic, I'll probably just become a fairy. But I think that pretty much covers everything to do with fairies. So now I want to talk about the next of our big 3 main features, living with the land. This is the gameplay that I was by far the most excited about. When I saw this in the trailer, it changed me. So there is a new 10 level natural living skill in this pack, and basically it lets you fill all of your needs outside. So you can sleep on the ground, you can talk to plants, you can bathe in open water, you can summon a privy bush and just pee anywhere. And when you're first starting out, they'll get really dirty from sleeping on the ground, and it takes them forever to bathe in the open water, but it gets way less bad and the interactions go faster once your skill gets higher. And you also build this skill pretty quickly just because you're doing it pretty much all the time. Like, there aren't really any other skills that you build just while sleeping or caring for your basic needs. So that is kind of nice. And foraging is the other big part of this skill. And as you increase your skill, you can forage for more things. You can forage for food and they'll find stuff like apples or frogs. Early on, one apple won't fill your hunger need that much, but if they're really high level, eating foraged food goes a long way. You also can't even eat raw frogs or fish at first, but after level 5, they'll just chomp down an entire raw frog. You can also forage for plants, and you can find some pretty good rare ones this way. I was finding cow plant berries and orchids and pomegranates, stuff that I usually would have to splice together to unlock. And you can also forage for collectibles. This lets you find fossils and my sim trophies and more frogs. I'm assuming that you might be able to find collectibles from other packs too in like other worlds, but I haven't been able to test that yet. This foraging does not really build your skill that much, and you get really dirty while doing it, but it's fun. Everything about the natural living skill is really fun to me. I love to play legacy challenges and rags to riches, so I am really often living on empty lots with no money at first when I'm playing The Sims, and I can see myself using this all the time with Stanley Humphrey. I'll still buy him a bed and a shower eventually, but this just means I don't have to go to the gym to use their shower or to the bar to grab chips to eat for dinner. And it means I can be more self-sufficient, which is better for a rags to riches challenge and also just more fun. There's also this whole new luck feature in the pack. This is yet another thing that is listed on the Simology panel. I am honestly not sure how I feel about this part. It only affects Sims living in Inniscreen, so it won't be something that you have to deal with forever in all of your households. But if your Sim has good luck, they'll find better and rarer forageables. They'll progress more easily in their career. They'll have an easier time crafting and fishing. But if they have bad luck, it'll take you ages to forage. They might not ever catch a fish. Their social interactions are more likely to fail. They'll start more fires when they're cooking. So it feels like luck kind of affects almost every aspect of your Sim's life. And this has potential to be really wacky and exciting, but it can also be a real pain depending on what you're trying to do. There are ways for you to affect your Sim's luck yourself. You can appeal to the Great Gnome. You can ask Spruce Almighty. You could try to get a luck charm. A Freezer Bunny foot can improve your luck, and a cow plant horn makes your luck worse. And fairies can also really easily adjust their own luck or the luck of other Sims. And if you don't like this, you can just turn it off in your game settings. At first, I thought it was pretty funny, but as I play a little bit further, it was kind of just starting to make me mad. I feel like it's probably going to depend on the save, whether or not I like this, because sometimes I'm down for chaos and other times I just don't want to deal with something like this. Like, how annoying if you're this close to getting a promotion at work, but like your luck is making it so you can't build your skill as fast, so you're not going to be able to do it in time for tomorrow. And maybe that's a good thing. The game is like throwing some curveballs at you. I just don't always want curveballs thrown at me. It's just one more thing to worry about, and there are a lot of random things to worry about in this game now. And that kind of brings us to the last of the big 3 pack themes, the apothecary skill. So this is a 10 level skill where you can craft cures for ailments and different elixirs, some of them good, some of them bad. And you'll do all of this crafting at the new apothecary table item. It's only 100 simoleons, so it's pretty easy to get started. You do need ingredients to craft all of this stuff. You have to have the ingredients in your inventory. Some are easier than others to get. A lot of the elixirs require crops like lemons or basil that are super easy to grow. Some are special ingredients that you have to forage for, like small critter bones. And there are also 3 new magical plants that come in this pack. I mentioned earlier about the lightning root and how I got electrocuted by it. You'll need the leaves from it for a bunch of different recipes, but don't worry, you can forage the leaves from it sometimes, and it's not actually that dangerous. Just don't get electrocuted twice in a row. If your Sim is dazed, stop. If your Sim is dazed, stay away from it. You can also connect it to your power grid to save money on your electricity bills. There's also this moody shrub that you can use to bottle up emotions. These will be used in a ton of recipes as well. This one is pretty cool because it also glows and it's got an aura that it gives off. And if you've got any emotion potions in your inventory, you can use them to change the aura. So it could like project a confident aura around to the surrounding area. And lastly, there is an aura blossom that you can harvest aura petals from. This one also projects an aura onto its surroundings. This could be things like good luck, happy moodlets, bad luck. There's a few different options, but you'll need a little bit of fairy dust to change what it's projecting. And there's a whole new collection of 18 different Innisgreen ingredients. This consists of all the different emotion potions, things that you can forage like acorns, aura petals, small critter bones. You'll complete the collection by foraging, growing the new plants, and seeking out the emotion potions. You need everything in the collection for the apothecary skill, so it's actually pretty easy to complete the collection while playing. I did it without even trying, and every single save that I was testing in. Also, they completely changed the UI of the collections tab. I think that's probably the base game update, but I was shocked when I saw that. It looks so much better now. And I told you a little bit about Apothecary Todd earlier and his apothecary stand. You can haggle with him and get 25% off, so make sure you do that before you buy anything. Also, when you play, click on the apothecary table next to his stand and get him to mentor you. The apothecary skill feels like it goes up kind of slow, so if you have him mentor you a couple of times, you can get a pretty good head start. And he's always standing right there, so it's really easy. He'll do it for free. That is a pro tip for playing this pack. There's also a new 10-level naturopath career that ties in the apothecary skill. It's kind of like the doctor career from Get to Work, but if you could do it at home and more holistically. It's kind of interesting because it's a fully active career, but there's no career lot. You can do it at home. So every day you get the option to treat patients at your house, and it'll send a sim to you. You'll talk to them about their symptoms, you'll ask about how they're feeling, and you can eventually diagnose them with something and help them treat it. It does get real repetitive. I am warning you now. Every day is the exact same interactions in the exact same order over and over and over again. I ask the same 5 questions. I craft them a cure, I give them the cure, then they leave, and then rinse and repeat the next day. But you don't have to play as an active career every day if you don't want to. You can still send them to a rabbit hole workday like any other normal career, and you can also choose to work from home instead of seeing clients at home, and this just gives you a standard work from home task like researching something on the computer. I do like that there's variety in the different kinds of things that you can do in the career. It helps to keep it interesting because any active career is gonna get repetitive. The Get to Work doctor career is repetitive. The Life and Death Grim Reaper career is very repetitive. So just keep that in mind and go in with that expectation when you go to play it. There's 2 branches. You can be an apothecarist or a lifestyle coach. For one, you need more apothecary skill. The other needs more fitness skill. Based on my testing, the gameplay of both of these branches is the exact same. I think the only difference is just what skill you need. There aren't even any different interactions. It's just the same when a client comes to your home lot. And something completely bizarre is that in both of my different test saves with the 2 different branches, it basically insta-maxed me in the career once I got promoted past the branch separation. So I got to level 6, picked my branch, went back to work for a couple more days, got that career performance bar full again. So I'm expecting them to get promoted to level 7 today, but then they come home from work and they're level 10. At first, I thought it was a glitch, but then it happened again in a different save. So I don't know if this is bugged or if it's like an intentional bonus reward to you, because I had like really high skills and I had treated loads of patients. I was not able to replicate it with cheats, so if I like career.promote naturopath, it wouldn't just push me to 10. There are labels and like full levels for 7, 8, and 9. I think it just like glitched me past them. So I don't really know what was going on there. I feel like if it was an intentional reward, they should have told me that and said like, oh, since you've been so successful, we're giving you a huge bonus. But I don't know. Maybe it was a glitch. I don't know. But kind of back to the ailments and stuff. When you treat clients at your home lot, most of them will come to you with an ailment. And ailments are another big feature of the pack. They're contagious. So if you're around a sim who has one, you might catch it too. You can be given one by a malicious fairy, and you are also more likely to get one if you're imbalanced, but I'll get to that in a second. There are 8 different ailments your sims can contract, and there are pros and cons to each of them. Like sims with the luck magnet ailment will draw luck from other sims, which makes their luck better and everybody else's luck worse. If you've got just one sim in your household, it's probably fine, but if you're playing with loads of sims, they're just like dragging everybody else around them down. Sonic Sinuses has sims sneezing and then breaking objects around them, but it'll make their handiness skill go up faster and they can repair objects more quickly while they're sick. Greeny Meanie makes your sims better at gardening, but they'll also get really angry and mean to other sims. And all of them are pretty visually obvious. Like your sim's skin will look very different when they have an ailment. Burning Passion has like flames up their arms. And this is pretty helpful when you're playing as a naturopath because you'll start to recognize the ailments. Though even if you already know, you should still ask all the questions for the career because you need that for performance and to like get promoted faster. You want to get a full gold workday. And ailments will go away on their own if you don't treat them. They last for about 3 days, but you can choose to make your own cure on an apothecary table, or you could pay 1,500 simoleons and click on your sim and just send them to a naturopath. You could also try asking a fairy to cure it, and you can pretty easily find sims around Everdo that have the ability to help you, and most often I found they will. Oh, and you can also try to manifest ailment relief at Moondrop Springs, but that hasn't worked for me yet. Not because it's broken, I think it's just like rare. It's supposed to be hard. Unfortunately, you cannot turn ailments off. There's no pack setting that stops this from happening, and it can affect any sim in any world as long as you have Enchanted by Nature installed. It's sort of similar to to illnesses from Get to Work, but a lot more intrusive because it's more than just an uncomfortable moodlet. And it's also way more expensive to cure and has like way more effects on you. I'm afraid I'm really gonna start hating this after a while. So often they'll add stuff like this in new packs that feels really exciting and special to me at first, and then it just kind of starts to become a nuisance. I felt so excited about grief from Life and Death, and now I kind of hate it. I loved the idea of fears, and now I sort of find them annoying most of the time. A midlife crisis seems so cool, and now it's just a problem. I think ailments will go a similar route for me, especially if they show up as often as they have been. I was getting an ailment almost every other day, but I was also sleeping on the ground outside, which probably didn't help. And I keep talking about balance, but I haven't actually explained that yet either. This is yet another new feature in the Simology panel and another new thing for us to have to worry about. I hate to say this, but I kind of wish they just had not added balance, because it really just is another thing that I'm going to end up hating soon. And it's even more visual clutter in that Simology panel that already has a million things in it. They need to do some kind of UI overhaul to that Simology panel. And luckily, balance can be disabled in your pack settings, but that doesn't stop you from getting ailments. It just stops you from getting ailments caused by being imbalanced. And basically, balance is like your Sims long-term mood. They've got all those temporary moods, but balance is sort of like the average of all of that stuff combined over time. So if they're in a bad mood for a while, if their needs are pretty bad for a long time, if they're consistently unlucky, or even sometimes having a big life event like losing a loved one, all of those things could contribute to them becoming imbalanced. If your Sim is imbalanced, their needs might need more attention, so they might have to eat or bathe more often, their luck might get worse, they might build skills slower, and if it goes so far as to become very imbalanced, then you'll have ailments constantly on top of all of it. Your Sim can just be plain old balanced, and this is like their normal state, and you have to try and keep them balanced just by caring for them, keep them in a good mood, keep their needs high. And if you need to fix imbalance, you can try visiting a naturopath and paying that 1,500 simoleons. You could try curing their ailments, you could try to drink a balance elixir from the apothecary skill, and apparently maintaining live houseplants can also help with balance. I'll talk about that in a second. I did not personally have success with that. So while I do like the idea of balance and how a long-term mood could actually have an effect on my Sims, I'm not sure how I am gonna feel about this long term. Like, here I am trying to force Stanley to stay up all night skill building, and all of a sudden he's burnt out and he's got an ailment and he's very imbalanced and his luck is bad and he's got 7 new fears and he's got a bad lifestyle and just it's too much. It's too much to keep track of. There's too many bad things that can happen now. I think I might like balance better if it wasn't all bad. Like, the bar is neutral, bad, or very bad. There's no benefit or like a plus side to being very balanced. It's literally just downhill. Like, you can either be fine or terrible. Like, maybe if there was some kind of opposite where if you were very balanced, your luck could be better, your skills could build faster, you could be immune to ailments or something. Just some kind of incentive to keep it on that opposite side. And with that, we've pretty much covered all of those 3 major themes of the pack. But there are a ton of other gameplay features that didn't quite fit into those umbrella categories, like houseplants, for example. So on top of those 3 new plants for the apothecary skill, there's also some houseplants you can grow. And I am just so sad about this because I want to like it so bad. I was so excited about houseplants, but this whole time I was kind of worried about them just because of how glitchy gardening has been in the past. Deep down, I think I knew I shouldn't have been getting my hopes up for a plant thing in The Sims 4, and I was right. I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up. So there are 4 new mini pots and 6 new houseplants that you can find in build mode. Each of the plants has 4 swatches, and the pots have some nice variety too. You place them separately so you can mix and match between pots and plant styles, and you don't have to plant houseplants in the mini pots. You can also buy tabletop seed packets and plant regular plants in the mini pots. Like, I could grow strawberries or basil in one of these mini pots as well. You could also plant the houseplants in one of the base game planters if you wanted to. So I guess the new feature is just an additional size of planter and also those houseplants. Bear in mind, the houseplants just are full grown. You don't grow them from seed, they stay the same size, but they can die if you neglect them. You'll take care of them like normal plants. The animation just uses a spray bottle instead of a watering can to water them. And because they're small, you can place them on more places. Anywhere that fits a medium-sized slot will fit the mini houseplants. So they fit on larger shelves, on dressers, desk counters, stuff like that. The reason I am being a little bit grumpy with this is that I had some really annoying glitches with them. In build mode, the plants kept disappearing out of the pots. So I'd be decorating, I'd put a plant down, I'd go to paint the walls, and then the plants are gone. But weirdly, the game thought the plant was still there. I just couldn't see it, so it was a visual glitch. I'd have to delete the pot and then put it back, and then it would be fixed temporarily. I was also having a different issue where all of the plants would glitch into my household inventory but leave all the pots on the tables. And then I had another issue where it would sometimes glitch the plant
into the table. So imagine the pot is sitting on a nightstand, and then all of a sudden the plant glitches to inside of the nightstand on the floor instead of being on the pot, and the pot stays where it was. So I really love the idea of these. It reminds me of old Sims games and having to take care of indoor plants. I like the idea of more size variety of plant pots. I love the thought of decorating greenhouses with these, or even just my sim having a little basil plant in their kitchen. It feels so cool for storytelling and for realism. But with the current state of them, I just don't have much interest in using them. I was getting so frustrated decorating with these that it kind of ruined the fun. Hopefully it's fixable and they can improve upon this. But with how the gardening skill has been repeatedly broken for years, I don't have high hopes. As soon as they fix one part of gardening, something else breaks. And I'm not even exaggerating. It's been happening like that since Seasons came out. I'm really not trying to be too negative. I just don't understand how this is still happening. And to like highlight this feature and get us all so excited about it, but it doesn't work quite right is very frustrating to me. But on a more positive note, there are some kind of interesting townies out and about. We've mentioned a few of them, but I haven't really explained this Spruce Almighty character. So you can summon him by interacting with that statue in Spruceberry Grove. He could possibly help you with your luck. You could get some lore from him about the town. Also, plant sims praise him. And he is one of many sims that gives you a fable quest. So there are 6 total fabulists in the game. And these are basically just all of the special character townies. The whole fable thing is very similar to the errands in Cottage Living. The townies send you on a mini quest to bring them an item or like talk to somebody. And if you finish it, you get a prize. This might be some of the special seeds from Innisgreen. It might be a collectible. Maybe it's a fancy statue to summon Spruce at your home lot. You could also get this cool rock thing, and you can use fairy dust to teleport to the 2 secret worlds in Willow Creek. I really feel like those secret lots are very underutilized features of the base game, and I think it's cool to have like a magic teleporting power to it. And with this, you can get into the Oasis Springs one even without level 10 handiness skill. All of the fables are funny little rhymes, and there's some mentions of special characters like Greg the Werewolf and Bella Goth's disappearance. So I had fun doing them. It's kind of a fun way to get to know the townies, get some lore, and make a little bit of money on the side. But honestly, like if you don't do this, you're fine. You're not missing out on a major pack feature. It's just like a little thing. Some of them are also very gnome related. There's a whole bunch of gnome stuff going on in this pack. We've kind of brushed on that giant gnome in town, but one of the fables gets you a trait called Now You Gnome once you complete it, and it lets you interact with him a little bit more. You can try to appease him, which is basically just a glorified version of the Harvest Fest stuff from Seasons, and if you appease him successfully, he'll give you items. I was just given fairy dust, a gnome, and a special elixir. You might want to be a little careful because I think if you make him mad, you might get an ailment. I haven't actually had that happen to me yet. I even tried kicking him and nothing happened, but I think that's because I am small and puny, so kicking him doesn't work. I do like that it expands upon the Harvest Fest lore a little bit more. It feels like the giant gnome is sort of a religious figure, and he's obviously very special and important to Sims in this town. So it makes almost the randomness of Harvest Fest make a lot more sense. Like, oh, okay, we're thankful to the gnomes on the holiday, of course. So the story here is that they built this giant gnome as a symbol of hope after the end of the Gnome Wars. Apparently it's because of these wars that gnomes can be brought to life only temporarily, and they also formed the Fairy Council because of these wars. So there's a bunch of story to discover. I don't really want to spoil it too much for you, but there's like deep lore about the gnome stuff. I think you might have some fun digging around to try and learn some more. And like speaking of enchanting gnomes and bringing gnomes to life, both fairies and humans can do it with fairy powers or with fairy dust. When bringing them to life, you choose between cleaning, gardening, protecting, or repairs and upgrades. And depending on what they've been enchanted with, they'll teleport around your lot, maybe fixing things, maybe cleaning things. If you have one for protecting, they can apparently thwart the Grim Reaper. I could have used that with that lightning root incident, but I did not have one of them yet. Gardening enchantments have the gnomes teleporting around your lot, helping with the plants. They increase their quality. They drop like 1 million seed packets. They can even drop really good seed packets, not just like normal quality ones. This looks a little bit overwhelming when you first see it. It kind of scared me at first because of how excessive it felt. I was like, oh my god, I can't have this every day. But it is only temporary. Like the gnome won't do that forever and eventually stops, and you can just re-enchant them again if you want it again. They do warn you to be careful not to do it too much in case you anger the Gnome Council, so proceed with caution. And kind of a random little bonus is that you can now craft gnomes on the woodworking table. There aren't any different ones, it's just all the same gnomes you can get out of build mode, but it is a new purpose for the woodworking table and also another way to build your handiness skill. They really haven't utilized the woodworking table feature too much, so I appreciate them adding to it. And on the subject of them trying to improve some old base game features, they did make some additions to plant plant sims in this pack. I've always wondered if they would ever do anything with plant sims again, and this really does feel like the perfect time to do it. If you're not familiar, plant sims are actually a base game temporary occult type. And occult is kind of a strong word, but they're not quite human. You just become half plant for a few days if you're a plant sim. Before this pack, they couldn't really do anything. They had a hydration need, and instead of hunger, they had to be out in the sun, but they didn't really have any special interactions or anything like that. Base game plant sims are still exactly the same. But if you buy Enchanted by Nature, they'll have a few additional features now. Probably the biggest thing is that it's now so much easier to become one. It used to be a real pain, and really nobody ever did it because it wasn't even obvious that the feature existed. Now you can find a ton of plant sims just wandering around Everdew, and if you just ask them for forbidden fruit, they'll give you one. So you can like instantly become a plant sim with very little effort. You can also use fairy dust to do nature's breath, which will bloom plants, but you do need fairy dust. You can't just do it as a plant sim. You can also absorb solar energy from plants like your house plants or other plants in your garden. You can do the poison kiss, which gives the greeny meanie ailment. You can also just be in water to refresh your hydration. You used to have to shower, but now you can just like stand in a pond. And lastly, you can use fairy dust to refresh your life force and extend the plant sim timer. I don't really see the point in this because it costs 20 fairy dust, but you can just ask for another forbidden fruit from a plant sim so easily. But I guess it's nice that the option to extend exists. The plant sims are just still kind of boring, and they still aren't really occults. They're really just people that are green that all have that same weird hairstyle. I know some people are kind of annoyed that the plant sim improvements are locked behind the paywall of the pack, but I don't even know if these are improvements. We went from 0 interactions to like 4, so I guess that's nice, but it's not like plant sims are that much better now. I have never really cared about plant sims, and this is not enough to make me care. They'd have to do a huge overhaul to change my mind about this. Also, why do they still have to have that default hair? It's so sad. I wish I could customize my own hairstyle. If you're gonna be a plant sim, you have to have that hair. There's no other option. It's just so weird to have all of these random green people walking around Everdew with the exact same haircut. I don't really understand why they're promoting plant sims on social media too, as though it's a big pack feature, because this does not feel like a big part of the pack to me. We are almost done. I've got 2 things left to tell you about. The first is trading. I told you a little bit about those Fable sims earlier, but aside from getting quests from them, you can also trade with them. All of them like different things, so you have to do a little bit of talking to figure out their preferences. They won't just accept anything. Like Joe Trader told me he likes apothecary stuff, so I traded him an elixir, and he gave me a lightning root seed back. So basically he tried to kill me. But it is nice to be able to get those rare seeds and then plant the new plants. I guess it's kind of a fun way to learn more about the new townies, and it can also be a nice way to find some of those harder to get items, but I wouldn't really consider this to be a huge pack feature either. And this last feature I want to talk about is also pretty small, but it's one of my favorite little things they added. There's a new nature press item that you can use to craft a whole bunch of different decorative objects. It actually kind of works like the friendship bracelet crafting, where you just like stick it on a table or desk and then click on it. Your sims almost instantly craft stuff when they use it. It's very fast, and then it just automatically adds it to your inventory. But you do need to have the ingredients to be able to make these crafts. Most of them are plants that you can grow, like different flowers or herbs, and you can make regular or enchanted items here. It's all the same stuff, just the enchanted ones need a little bit of fairy dust too, and then they have an emotional aura that they give off. And the enchantment thing really doesn't mean that much or make much of a difference, to be honest. It's really just kind of a fun little side thing. There are 10 different prints and 5 different candles you can make. You can also find all of these in debug, so you could just use them to decorate even without having to actually craft them all. I'm gonna use these so much. I love all the different flower prints. There's some that are kind of funky, like a frog. There's others that are just beautiful florals. Seriously, I'm gonna put these all over the place in builds, and a couple of them are really cheap, like 30 simoleons, so really good to decorate starter homes with. Okay, I think that just about covers everything coming in Enchanted by Nature. And now that I've shown you everything, I want to talk more about my final thoughts on the pack. I'm just gonna play some build footage while I do it so you can see more of the items. I feel like I have given rave reviews to the last couple of expansion packs, so maybe that contributes to a little bit of my disappointment here. I do think this pack is good, but I'm not obsessed with it. And I was obsessed with businesses and hobbies and life and death. So the bar was just really high, especially when I'm not a person who cares all that much about occults in general. Fairies were never going to be my favorite pack, but that doesn't mean that it won't be yours. There are a few really big highlights for me. I think that natural living skill is something that I'm gonna use all the time in my regular gameplay. I mean, this is gonna completely change Stanley Humphrey's life, definitely for the worse, but I'm gonna use it in so many videos. I also really like Inniscreen. I think the world is really big, and I like how much variety there is in the styles of each different neighborhood. It's almost like 3 mini worlds in one because the styles vary so much, and it's nice to have that many different options of places to build and places to live. I am mostly a builder, and I think I'm gonna be using the build stuff from this pack all the time. I'm gonna build here all the time. You know how often I build in Hemford-on-Bagley, and Inniscreen, especially Spruce Dairy Grove, is so good for the kind of builds that I like to make. I've always loved building cottages, and now we have a ton of extra stuff to use for that. I think I care a lot more about the build mode, like the windows and the columns and the wallpapers, than I do about the buy mode, like the furniture and decor. I don't dislike the furniture, but I think I just know that it's gonna be harder for me to use a mossy fireplace in my everyday gameplay. This stuff is beautiful and very special and very unique, but that also means that it requires sometimes very special and unique builds for it to make sense. And as far as the biggest disappointments of the pack go, I think the number one thing has to be the houseplants. I was so excited about them, and it was devastating for it to just not be working right. And look, they're not completely broken. They don't break every single time. I just hate dealing with finicky stuff like that, and it's really off-putting to me. It makes me not want to use them, so I feel like I'm missing out on that part of the pack. And I also unfortunately kind of dislike the balance stuff. I kind of talked about this earlier, but I think I just wish there was more of a positive spin to it instead of it being all bad. Right now it's like normal or bad. There isn't any bonus to being good. It is hard enough to deal with everything in this game sometimes, and I don't need another punishment when my Sims are struggling. And I want to talk a little bit about bugs too, because I also had a couple more visual glitches. Sometimes the fairies' wings would just disappear. They would instantly reappear, but just like sometimes I couldn't see their wings. Not from them switching back into the human form, but just from the wings not being visible. I also had an issue with rooms not building a roof. The game would think that it had one, but it was invisible, and it would only be certain rooms sometimes. So I had to keep clicking remove roof and then add the roof back. And also the small business outlines kept appearing in build mode. I've been having this problem in the normal game too, so it's not really a new bug, but it was a big problem here because I didn't even have businesses and hobbies. So there was no way to turn the outline off. I had to go all the way out of build mode and then back in to make the outlines disappear. I also had some trouble taking pregnancy tests. I would try for a baby, but the test option wouldn't be there, and my sim was pregnant. If you don't take a test, you find out 24 hours later, the game just tells you you're pregnant. So I don't really know what was going on there, but the test option wasn't available. And it is possible that all of the bugs that I'm mentioning right now might be fixed when the real game comes out, or they might even be worse. Who knows? I just want to be transparent about my experience there. Otherwise, I wouldn't say there was anything else that was like hugely disappointing. I mean, I kind of come into this expecting to experience bugs like that. Are any of you surprised by any of the bugs that I mentioned? Because I'm not. They're all bugs that I could have predicted would happen. It's The Sims 4. It's always like this, and that's not a good thing, but like it kind of just is what it is. I guess what I'm trying to say is I wasn't disappointed by like any core themes of the pack or like issues with the content of the pack. It's mostly just bugs or like those tagging issues I kept complaining about. I liked the pack. I had fun with the pack, except for a few things that really frustrated me. And I think I should address the other elephant in the room, fairies coming in an expansion pack. I think we've all been imagining what a fairy pack would look like for a really long time, and this is just not really what any of us expected. It's been so highly requested for so long, and I think we all assumed that they would come in a game pack, more like vampires or werewolves, and I guess that pack would be just fairies. And I guess if that were the case, we probably would have only gotten Everdew, like just that few lot neighborhood. Everdew would be the entire world. There wouldn't be a new career or new skills. We wouldn't have as much furniture and clothing. So I was really worried when they said they were making an expansion pack instead of a game pack for fairies, because all I could think of was mermaids. Like mermaids in Island Living were done so dirty. They are truly one of the worst occult types in the game. It's giving plant sim, but like fish sim. Instead, they don't have a skill tree. They don't really have many special interactions. They're sort of just Sims with tails. And so I was super scared going into this that fairies would just be Sims with wings. I think with Island Living, the mermaids were more of an afterthought. Like the mermaids weren't a key feature of the pack. They weren't the priority in development. but with this pack, the fairies were. And I think a better comparison is actually Life and Death, because that is a pack about death, and the ghosts are a big part of the game, but they aren't the only part of the game. I think the same thing is happening here. This is a pack about nature and magic, but you don't even need to be a fairy to interact with all of it. Fairies are just a part of it, and maybe even like a third of it. And I actually think that's reasonable. So it is a lot more expensive being an expansion pack than a game pack. A fairy game pack would be $20. The expansion is $40. So who's to say if the additional content fully justifies the price or not? But I do think this is a solid expansion pack when you compare it to all of the other expansions. And that's maybe the only actual fair comparison. It's hard for me to sit here and compare it to the non-existent fairy game pack that I had built up in my mind. But when you look at the number of the new items, the size of the world, all of the gameplay content, I think this is really solidly comparable to any other expansion pack. So then it kind of just comes down to personal preference. Do you want fairies? Do you think you would care about this pack? One person's top favorite pack of all time could easily be your least favorite. And that's why I make this video and I go so in depth into all of the content so that hopefully you can decide for yourself. When I think about my personal expansion pack rankings now, I think Enchanted by Nature falls somewhere near the lower middle. This is the 19th expansion pack for The Sims 4, and I'd probably rank it somewhere around number 12 or 13. It's not an absolute necessity to me. I would be okay if I didn't have this pack, but I have had a lot of fun playing with it over the past couple of weeks. I feel similarly about this that I do about werewolves. Like, I can objectively say werewolves is a really good game pack. And I've had fun playing with werewolves in the past. I just don't really personally care about werewolves that much. And long term, I play with them very occasionally. I think fairies are gonna end up being the same for me long term. Maybe once a year, I'll make a fairy sim, but I will live in Inniscreen. I'm gonna sleep on the floor. I'm gonna eat a frog. I'll mix up elixirs, and I am gonna build 1 million cottages in this world. There are a lot of you watching this who are obsessed with fairies and who have been waiting for this day for years, and I am thrilled for you. I think you're gonna have so much fun playing with the fairy part of this pack. And even if there are things that I am frustrated by or disappointed by with it, I don't think it's a bad pack. And pretty much everything I mentioned can hopefully be fixed in a patch. Should it have to be fixed in a post-launch patch? No, but hopefully it will be, and then I'll feel a lot better about it. The fairies themselves don't really have any issues. The fairies are really, really, really good. So I think a lot of people are gonna love this for that reason. If you are planning on buying this pack, you will get 3 bonus items for buying it before August 21st. I actually haven't seen any of these in-game myself yet. They don't give them to us in the weird CFE version, but they seem all right based on the picture. But listen to me, okay? If you are planning on waiting for a sale, don't let them get to you. Stay strong. It is just 3 items. It is not worth all that extra money. Businesses and Hobbies went on sale like last week for the first time, and it only came out back in March. And I think they're doing that because this pack is coming out. I would not be surprised if we got a 3rd expansion pack this year in like October, November, December timeframe. So it's possible that fairies could be on sale by the end of the year. And if you're good to wait for that, you won't get the 3 bonus items, but it'll cost you a lot less money. One is a little pond object, one is a lantern, and one is a new fairy house. The fairy house is the big thing. There is only 1 fairy house in the pack, so it would be nice to get an extra one. I really hate that that's the early purchase content because I hate people getting left out from it. But again, don't let them get to you. It is just 3 items, but I know a lot of you are gonna buy it right now. So if you are gonna buy it, please, please, please use somebody's creator code at checkout on the EA app. It really feels weird to mention that in a review video, and you don't have to use mine, okay? Just please use somebody's. Most of your favorite Sims creators have a code that is probably just their username, and they get a 5% commission. So they'll earn $2 on every sale of this pack using their code. So EA gets less of your money. It gets given to a creator instead. And since you were already gonna buy it, it's a free way for you to support creators financially. Hopefully, you know I have everything to lose by lying to my community. So I would never sit here and like pretend to like a pack just to get $2 from you. Although I don't think you got this far and thought that I was pretending to like the pack. I had a lot to say this time. But seriously, my goal with this video is just to give you every tool for you to come to a conclusion about whether or not this is worth your hard-earned money. These packs are expensive. $40 is a lot of money, and I just want you to know what you're buying. I used to obsessively read Sims 3 pack guides as a kid because I had very limited funds and very few opportunities to purchase a Sims pack, and I wanted to be sure that I was getting the right one. And I really just want these review videos to serve that same purpose for others other people. So hopefully it was helpful to you. I am also going to be posting a ton of additional content with this pack here on YouTube this week. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss it. Tomorrow, I've got a feature-length film of gameplay coming. It is like 2 hours long. I play so much of the pack, and I'm also going to be live streaming on Twitch every single day, playing even more of the pack. I'm able to answer questions more easily and like discuss things in more detail because it is live in those streams. My Twitch is just lilsimsie, and I'll link that for you down below. I will be live tonight, and then I'll post it afterward on my second channel called More Simsie on YouTube. So if you missed the stream, you can always watch it back there on More Simsie. And I think that is the end of my speech. So sincerely, I hope this video was helpful to you. I always spend a really, really long time on these reviews. I put a lot of effort and love into them. I really did my best. And this is actually the longest script for a review that I've ever written by a couple thousand words. So I'm kind of scared to see how long the final thing ends up being. But I am finally gonna wrap this up right here. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everybody. Okay, in the comments down below, what do you think about the pack? How are we feeling? Are we buying it? Favorite parts, least favorite parts? We gotta yap about this.